it was huge. Like the difference it made, I can never express our thanks as a family. Like just the things that we were able to do for her, we just wouldn't have been able to do. And it gave us the freedom to send her off the way that we knew that, you know, she should be sent off. And it just made an amazing difference.
Friends, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. We have BJ Wallace today. The episode is a little bit crazy. It starts off the rails. We start with drinking stories and why Pepsi Max is fantastic or horrible, depending on your opinion. But after about 15 minutes, we get into some really good meat, and the best part of the podcast is at the end. And so I'm not going to say anything more about it. Just get into it. Now, you might notice that this intro, I'm outside. The reason is I've got some really cool news. We are making a studio, and what that means is we can have in-person interviews. Hopefully, if we're really lucky, 2 people this week. Just trying to push the boundaries on getting really good guests, getting really great people, and hopefully making this a really great experience for you, a really entertaining show for you while you're working, getting all that stuff done. Anyways, let's get into the podcast. All right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun today because we got BJ Wallace. He's the bearded lawnsman, if you find him on Instagram. But the other thing about him, he's been in business for 8 or 9 years. How long is it, BJ, in business? 8, 9 years, 10 years, 100 years?
Mate, well, I got hit by a drunk driver in 2014, and 2015 I started. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's
8 years.
Christmas 2014. I hung up the work boots for the big company, the man, and started out on my own.
So you went from working for the man. You are now the man because you have how many people working for you?
I don't have a million, but I've got 3 really solid guys, and I've got 1 guy who does part-time. So, and then me sometimes.
Yeah, you know. Your wife helps out with the admin. I just wanted to say at the start of this, you've got this persona that you're a really easy to get along with guy. We're going to have a lot of fun in this podcast, but I think, and I told you this before, nobody gets through business for 8 or 9 years employing people who is an idiot. You just can't do that. And some people, they look at you. Well, but it's just true. It's just how it is, because some people will look at the way that you go about business, and it's a different way than I go about business. It's a different way to say Gary Ashton goes about business. And what I'm getting at here is that some people will look at a certain type of personality and say that person is intelligent, and a different type of personality and say that person is stupid or whatever. It's like, no, that's not how it works. The proof is in the results, right? And you've got some great results. You're doing all these villages. I just want to start with this compliment because I genuinely believe it. And I think if there's people out there who think, oh, what could this big guy have to say? Man, I think you've got a lot to say. That's why I wanted to get you on. Anyways, was that a nice introduction for you, man?
Yeah, very nice. I feel really, really all tingly on the inside.
That's it. And we can have a big kiss later across the other side of the country.
Open mouth pash, I think.
We got to start with this, man. What did you just say about Pepsi Max?
What are you doing? Man, it's disgusting. I don't know what they've done to it. I don't know. It's horrible. I never used to mind one now and again, but yeah, they've done something to it over the last 6 months. Now, my sister-in-law is exactly the same.
Right.
Like if I ever get a Pepsi Max, because, you know, some people, some places will have Coke and some will have Pepsi. If I get a Pepsi Max, it goes in the fridge, and my sister-in-law can have it when she rolls through.
No, see, I love Pepsi Max is the nectar of the gods. That's what it is to me.
Is that like a Western Australian thing?
I don't know. I just that and sparkling water. That's pretty much all I drink. Real water if I'm desperate.
Yeah,
if I'm out there working.
I'm with you on the sparkling water. Like, is it flavored? Is it one of the flavored ones?
Most of the time, no. My wife likes the flavored stuff. I'm just like. Yeah. I mean, why would you drink water? It's 2023, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's just got to be a little bit extra these days.
That's it. I've got to, interest myself somehow.
Do you drink Pepsi with, like, bourbons and whiskeys and stuff?
I don't actually drink much alcohol at all, to be honest.
Yeah, but when you do, like...
when I do, if I was going to have, like, honestly, I might have 3 drinks a year. Like, honestly, like that's just how I've always been. I got a
Yeah.
funny story about this. About 10 years ago, I was going around Australia with some mates, and they were actually cycling around Australia for charity, and I was a support driver. And so what you would get is there's some great people in country towns, and they're super generous. And anyways, the word got around, and there's this older guy, Croatian bloke, probably about 60 years old, who loved having European backpackers over to his house, and just sort of super hospitable guy, very generous guy. And anyways, he found out about us, and he was like, "Come over, you can stay at my house, and we only needed a couple of nights." And we go to this guy's house, and I've never been much of a drinker. And my mates, we rock up, and we're expecting we're going to have to prepare everything. This guy has cooked a feast for us. It's like way more food than 3 19-year-old guys could ever fit in. And it's just him, one of his mates. His mate doesn't even really speak English. They're just these Croatian blokes. And anyways, what was happening is he had these Heinekens, and he's bringing out these Heinekens. And so we're like, sweet, obviously hospitable. I'm gonna have a drink, and it's not my preferred drink, so I'll just take it slow and out of respect. Anyway, so he gives us all a Heineken. Like, sweet, my 2 other mates, they down the Heinekens, they're done, and I'm like at the bottom of the neck, and so he sees that they're done, and he comes around and he opens the lid, brings out another Heineken for all of us. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well. Maybe he just thought I was done too, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess, So anyways, my mates, they finish the next drink. And again, they're probably done their drink by the time I'm halfway through my first bottle. I've still got a second open one. He comes around again. He gives me an extra bottle. He gives everyone an extra bottle. But I haven't even finished my first one yet. So I got 2 unopened bottles. And I'm like, what do I... So they're open. So I'm like, what do I do here? So... Anyways, the guys are starting to have a laugh at me because they know me, and they're like, they used to call me Half Bottle Luke. Like, I just can't, it's just how I am, right? And so I'm thinking, surely he's going to get the message that the other 2 guys are drinking, and that I just don't drink that much. So I'm like at the bottom third. And again, he comes around. I've now got 3 bottles. And so what happens is my other mates, they start drinking my bottles. And so then it keeps sending this message that. So every time he came out, I just kept getting us another bottle. I didn't know what to do with it. And I felt so embarrassed. And he didn't speak English that well. And the guys were just having a laugh at me the whole time. So anyways, I think
you don't want to hear any of my drinking stories.
Oh man, I don't have. This is the thing. Like, some people feel like if you don't drink, you're judging other people for drinking. I couldn't care less what anybody else
Yeah,
does.
no.
When I was,
I don't drink that much now. So,
well, when I was young, I was an athlete, and I just didn't want to get involved in anything that was going to derail my career. So I was quite serious with my health stuff, and anyway, I just carried that through. How did we get onto Pepsi Max and beer on a gardening podcast?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, when I was young, I used to brew 15 litres of 43% spirits every week and sell it instead of working. So, paths we take.
Hold on. Look, let's just go. I'm curious now, because if you guys some people, they've already left the podcast. It's okay. That's fine, right? We'll get to the gardening stuff soon. The people who are listening to this, you what? 15 litres of 43% spirits?
Yeah.
What did you make it out of?
Bootleg BJ. Mate, I had the full kit. I used to have a still. We used to make little batches of about 26 litres. They call it like a mash or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a home brew shop around the corner. We just used to buy flavorings. I used to make all the alcohol for the weekend, and I used to sell it to. We had like good connections to girls' schools, and all of our mates used to drink.
Hold on a second.
I used to have parties. Mate, we lived different lives. I used to pay my rent by selling alcohol and having parties.
How old are you at this point?
18, 19.
That's
so I've lived by myself since I was about, I think, basically when I left high school, my mum left, and I just got to start paying rent in the house, and that's about the same time I started like hanging out with Benny a lot, and we just thought, we'll get this still. Yeah, and I mean, I had parties where I would bring in like $500 or $600 on the door just to pay my rent for the fortnight. Just come in, drink as much as you want, don't punch holes in the walls, and off you go.
So
There's been fights, everything. It's
how
crazy.
much money do you get from 20? How many liters was it?
I used to do,
liters?
sometimes I do 2. Yeah, so 15 litres of about 43. I was selling them for $15 a bottle. But when I had like a big weekend, I'd just do two washes, and I'd do 30 litres. And yeah, it's about 8 hours for a cook. So God, I sound like a drug manufacturer. But no, you'd set it all up, and you'd let it roll for a couple of hours, and yeah, I got pretty good at it.
Gee, so your later teen years. So I was I was trying to represent my country in swimming, trying to make the Paralympic Games, and so I'm like super
Yeah.
healthy. And you've got a small business enterprise selling alcohol to girls' schools. Is that what you said? I mean, like,
Oh, mate, everyone. Like a few of the girls we knew from my street, they went to one of the prestigious girls' schools here in Brisbane, and they used to bring all their friends. We built a bar in my backyard out of we have this thing here in Brizzy, council cleanup. We built a
Yeah.
wall around this just open
Yeah.
shed, and yeah, man, we put couches, we had TV in there. The cupboard was always stocked, and my place was the place to be. My neighbors hated me. One of them actually got me over, sat me down at his kitchen table, and pulled out a pamphlet for the army and tried to convince me to go to the army.
How did you handle that? How did you handle the conversation?
Oh, I just took
No.
the pamphlet. I've always been pretty courteous.
Right, so you're yes sir, no
and
sir.
said, "Look, I'll think about it, mate."
Yeah.
Yeah. His daughter was really, really hot. She was like in the canine unit,
right.
and yeah, he tried to get her to convince me as well, and she almost did it. Like yeah,
Gee.
I was a sucker.
Man, I got so many stories of back when I was swimming. So those who don't actually know, because I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast yet. I used to be a professional swimmer, and when I was a teenager, so you would have heard me talk about my health issues on the podcast. I had a severe autoimmune disease when I was a kid. Couldn't walk for months and months, and lost range of movement in my limbs. Became a swimmer, got classified, and anyways, that's a long story. So that means I could swim for Australia as what you call a multi-class swimmer, or really what you would qualify for the Paralympics. And I used to swim against people who had like a missing hand or something like that. So not like people who are missing legs. Anyway, so I grew up, and I had a teacher who was a professional, not professional, but almost got to the highest level of cricket, and he was in the same sort of team as a lot of cricket stars. If anyone listening knows people like Michael Hussey or Simon Kadich, he was growing up with this generation of people. He was considered just as good as them, got into alcohol, derailed his whole career. And I always had that story in the back of my head where I was like, I don't want to do that. And there was this massive drinking culture in swimming, believe it or not, where you wouldn't drink for 3 months leading up to your major event. And then as soon as your major event is done, all the most famous swimmers in the country would go to a single bar. You would usually get somebody who was more famous book it out. So a big name in the swimming community would book out this bar, and everyone would go there and just get absolutely smashed off their face. And I was the guy on some occasions who everyone knew wouldn't drink. And I used to sit in the corner on my phone, totally content with my life, not embarrassed, not worried about it, just knew the role that I was playing, right? Sit in the phone and everybody else is drunk, dancing around. I don't mind. I'm just chilling in the corner. And then I would take home gold medal Paralympians and, help people who, represented the country at the highest level, drunk off their head, take them home, sort them out, be the friend. And anyways, I'm not going to incriminate anyone, but I've had like moments with some of the most famous swimmers of the last generation just drunk off their face. And you wouldn't know that happened, but that's the culture.
Hey, it's one of those things. You got your stories. I drank a bottle of Jack in like an hour, and Benny stuck his fingers down my throat and made me spew to to get me to come out. So we've all been there, mate. Did you ever have to do that for any of your mates?
The worst thing that ever happened was there's two actually. Man, like both of them are with people who are genuine Paralympians, all right? So one was I had to carry somebody down a set of stairs because they were drunk out of their head and put them in, but they also were disabled, right, to a degree. So they couldn't actually get themselves down the stairs anyway. So I did that, chucked them in the car. I'm driving the car. I'm sorry, I'm not in the taxi. I'm not driving the taxi. I'm the representative for the taxi. Do you know what I mean? I'm paying for the taxi.
Yeah.
I'm like 18. I got no money. And he throws up in the taxi. And the guy was like, you got to pay for this. And I was like, bro, I have no money. And had this awkward exchange. Luckily, we got to the next place and another Australian swimmer coughed up the bill, who just happened to be at the house that we were going back to. And then another time, somebody passed out in the shower, and there was another swimmer who was basically saving them from being, choking on their vomit or anything. And they genuinely crapped all through the shower and vomited all through the shower. And I was in that room, and I was like, I just can't. Nah, I'm out, man. You're on your own. I mean, I've done my part.
Yeah, that's
but
wild.
It's funny. It's just this weird thing where it's like these people are legends, right? And I'm not saying the story to throw anyone under the bus. Otherwise, I would have told their names. You know what I mean? These are really great people. It's just this weird thing in the culture where it's like the swimming was like, it's like these are the sort of people who need to have a little drink every now and then. It's like they had this pent up like, oh man, I just want to go have some fun. I'm sick of waking up at 3:50 in the morning, training 12 times a week, swimming 70 Ks a week.
Big commitment.
It's huge commitment. I totally understand it too. No judgment on anybody. It's just, anyways. So we can keep talking about that. We're already 15 minutes in. But have you ever heard of like lawn care and gardening?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it. Not too much. Not as much as brewing alcohol.
Well, this is why I wanted to get you on, because this is why I'm glad I started the podcast waiting, because people are going to look at this and go, if we didn't say you're almost 10 years in business and or 8-9 years in business and you employ people and you do a lot of work and you're an ambassador for Scag, they'd go, who's this idiot you got on the podcast? But I love that you've got this personality and you don't shy away from the person that you really are, and you are happy to be that on camera. You're happy to be honest about yourself, and that gives a level of trust that we know that when you say that I'm really good looking, when you say Luke Smith is the best looking person you've ever had a podcast with, because that would be true, wouldn't it? You wouldn't lie about that because you don't lie about anything else, hey?
Oh, look, I probably shouldn't diss Benny in any regards.
No, I'm joking.
I mean, you're top three.
How many have you had on?
I got
3?
3, yeah. I got Paul Jameson lined up hopefully for next week too. So he's a good looking rooster.
Is he? Okay. Well, I'm in no competition.
Yeah.
I have to say, on the beard front, I don't make the list, do I? Benny's mustache is fantastic.
No,
your beard is off the charts.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was actually going to go and have a clean up. I was actually parked outside the barbers, and then my wife called and said, hey, there's a guy taking photos down our driveway, and my shed is straight down. I was like, yeah, no, that's not right. And I ran home, and there was no one to be found. So got him on the Ring camera and just show the neighbours and make sure that no one gets broken into over the next couple of days.
Gee, this podcast has taken a funny turn, hasn't it? We're going to go to break, and then I'm going to come back. And we can actually talk about the gardening stuff. I don't mind. We can talk about any rabbit hole we want.
Let's do it.
I did not get you on expecting to talk about anything other than fun things. So let's get into it. All right, BJ, let's get right into this, man. What is 10 years or so in the industry, 8 years, 9 years, whatever it is, what's the worst bit of gear you've ever bought, the biggest piece of regret you've ever had to deal with?
Oh, okay. So probably biggest regret. I actually talked about this today on our podcast. Probably my biggest regret and the biggest amount of money I lost was when I got my Walker.
Ooh.
Look, I've got nothing against Walker. And look, I know they have a fantastic cart. They're a unique machine. The direct collect is awesome. Um, this was a residential machine, so I'm not like I can only go on that machine. It was sold to me by a Walker dealer, so I thought it was going to be A1. I bought it and I took it, like it actually got delivered to my local mechanics, and they said if you do not get all the parts you need to fix this, then you should take them to court, because the way it was advertised and the way it arrived were two completely different things. So that left a sort of a dirty taste in my mouth. I had to pay for the labor to get it all fixed, but it all got fixed. And look, eventually, I only had it for about 9 months maybe, and the engine blew on it. One of the hydros was just kaput. Yeah, it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it was my first zero turn. So
Right.
it did fantastic job when it was working, but it spent a lot of time in the shop.
Reliability problems. But so you say it didn't come as advertised. What was missing on it?
Nothing was missing, so it was a secondhand machine.
Right.
It was advertised as like A1 mechanically, and
Right.
all like the chains were flogged. Some of the cogs had missing T. There was just a bunch of stuff that needed to be replaced. And look, to their credit, they replaced it, sent it all up. I just had to pay for labor, so it took like a $9,000 machine. It sort of pushed it towards a 10.
Right.
If I knew what I know now, I probably wouldn't have got that machine. And if Ben
Yeah.
had Catch Pro back then,
Yeah.
I probably would have gone for a Catch Pro system instead of a direct collect, because although it did suit my business at the time, like I couldn't take it onto big properties. It just didn't have the balls. It didn't have. I had one place that was like 6 acres, and they wanted it all caught. And when you're rolling around with a little 14 horsepower, I think it was a Suzuki or a Subaru or something engine, it just doesn't cut the mustard. So for what I spent, I could have got something a lot more heavy duty. I could have even put a rear bagger on it or something like that.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't have gotten up into the commercial walkers, but yeah, that was my only regret. Look, it was just a pretty average experience, really. Bit of naivety from me. I didn't even see the machine in person. I spoke to the guys over the phone.
Right.
They just gave me a salesman spiel, and I lapped it up. So
Do you think that the odds? What are the odds are that it was a bad owner beforehand compared to necessarily?
look at
Because that's always the risk
had-
with getting secondhand,
Yeah, 100%. It had reasonably low hours on it. It only had like 650 hours on it, I think.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, whoa, this machine's been flogged.
Yeah.
And look, naivety. Like when I was like, looking, the LMCA wasn't even a thing then. So when I'm looking at research and things like that on YouTube and the web, and Walker was like really big at that time. I didn't have any other idea about other brands. I'd looked at a few other things like Country Clipper and Hustler and things like that, but I really wanted the catcher. Like, I was pretty pretty lazy when I first started. I really wasn't. I don't know. It was weird. I just really wasn't ready to just push mow everything, and everyone wanted everything caught. No one wanted a mulching sort of business. So, and that's just my area. I know this whole mulch catch thing goes on. Like I like to catch. I think it leaves a better finish and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose the direct collect machine.
I think if you look at these if you look at these controversial things that happens on these groups that we're a part of, right? There's these Facebook groups where thousands of contractors get together and somebody puts up a post and somebody else has an opinion and it goes back and forth like that. What I'm seeing and what I'm noticing from this, right, and tell me if I'm missing something here, right? But for me, there are about 6 or 7 people who comment very strongly on one thing, there might be 15 or 20 people who comment on the other side, and then there's 5,000 people who stay silent. That's a lot of what the
Yeah.
controversy
Oh,
is.
100%. There are people out there that just love to stir, and like much respect to those guys. I think like the amount of memes that have been put up, like where people have actually taken the time to do memes, I'm like, these guys have got some really, like, they got some time on their hands. Like I struggle.
Yeah.
Like I've got a heap of social media to do, and like I struggle to get content for all that because I'm like bouncing from the boys to home to fixing stuff to changing something up, always on the phone. Like my wife laughs at me. She's like, every time you get in that truck, you're always on the phone, and like,
Yes.
and it's true. Like I'll be working. I'll be like, all right, boys, I'm off to whatever I have to do next. Straight on the phone, I'll be like,
Yeah,
talk to
100%.
Ben. I'll talk to Rob. I'll talk to my wife. I'll
Yeah.
talk to Gary sometime. Just everyone and anyone that has called me, and then maybe once or twice a week I'll talk to a customer. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you get this. So what I'm getting at here is like, I think the mulch versus cash debate, I think my gut feel is 80 to 90% of the contract community would agree with roughly our position, which would be, because I've heard you talk about this on the podcast before, mulching has its place, right? But if you really want the best finish, most of the time it's catching. And most of the time people are just using mulching as something to increase efficiency. And then they try and add on or they try and promote the health benefits of mulching the grass, right? But I think honestly, I think 80% of the industry would be saying, yeah, look, catching for most of the time, and they're not, but because they're not vehemently for or against, they just don't comment, and they don't care to comment because most people just don't want to get involved. And then there's a bunch of us who just like getting in, having a laugh at things, and having a good, just having a good time. And then there's people who take it very, very seriously, and then that's So
yeah,
I don't think
I don't mind
it's as
watching the pot getting stirred.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as controversial as in the real world. I don't think people care that much. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, people get so heated. Like I kind of sit back and laugh, and just watch the comments roll. I know there are some key people on there that are like think their businesses are the benchmark, and I think that's it's really good to have confidence in where your business is. Like on the Skull sessions, like we always talk about our practices, and like 100% we'll always say this is just what we've done, that has been successful for us. You need to find your own path, and I think that's one thing where some people are like, well, this is working for me, I don't know why it wouldn't work for everyone. Whoever doesn't use this same method is an idiot, and they are letting themselves down. I think people who think that their business is the top, like they're at their peak, it's like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know? There's like 5,500 people on LMCA, for instance, and I'd say at least 5,000 of them, or 5,250, are silent 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they would have some fantastic input. I know some of the people that sit in the background, and their businesses, mine is like nothing compared to what they have. Like they have like 22 guys, like at one stage there was a guy with 55 guys, and like there's all these businesses that absolutely dwarf it. Business is what, your business is what you want it to be. Like it's whatever you strive for it to be. Like if you think you have reached where you want to be and you're proud of that, like be loud and proud. But I think sometimes when they get really passionate and they're like, you're doing it wrong, you're wasting your time, you're wasting money, you're ripping off customers, and it goes both ways.
Yeah.
If you could have a mulch business, like I really have a mad respect for the guys that wholly and solely mulch. I think some people get side discharging and mulching confused.
Yeah.
Because they're two different things. I think there's a genuine mulching, and then there's a side discharging. Even if you side discharge with mulch blades, like it's going straight out. Like there's nothing really happening under there. So, but no, I think it's good to have healthy discussions, but when people think that they're always right, it's hard to deal with that.
It
And
does.
I think that's where the controversy comes up.
And that's what I think about with the vanity numbers too. Like, there's so many people, and you and I are this type of person, so I'm not insulting anybody, right? But there's people who talk a lot online, and because they talk a lot online, you can see, oh, they know a thing or two, because you can see what they know because they're sharing their knowledge. They're talking about things.
Yeah.
And then what will happen is you get people who, so people like us can sometimes seem smarter than what we really are just because we talk a lot. And then there'll be people who don't talk at all, who don't seem like they have anything worth saying, but it doesn't mean a single thing. It just is, they're just, that personality type is someone who's a little bit more quiet,
Yeah.
But the other thing is with the vanity numbers is you can get people who, let's say they do, I don't know, let's pick a number, $1 million a year, right? Someone could go out there and say, I do $1 million a year. Sure. Well, you could also lose money doing $1 million a year, right? How much you have in sales
100%.
is relevant, right? You could have 55 employees and they all hate their job, right? And they all want to get out of there, but they don't have another option. So they're staying there. And maybe you have huge turnover, or you have, there's all these other things. And so it's like, I'm not impressed, and I'm sure you're not either. I'm not impressed by people who have those vanity numbers. I'm impressed by people who do things like I'll use Jeff McPhee as an example. We did this podcast maybe 4 or 5 podcasts ago. 35 years experience in the industry, right? He still enjoys his job, right? He's always been solo the whole time. He's still married, loves his wife, loves his family, loves having his grandkids over, right? And he does good quality work. That's a successful bloke, period, right? Does not matter that, I think I didn't talk to him on the air about this. I called him up beforehand, just have a chat with him. And I think he was saying that was another bloke that started around the same time as him. And now they're that business in the same area. And they always used to chat. And that business has got dozens of employees now, 30-something years later. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not like one guy succeeded and the other guy failed. It's just completely different stuff.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, so that if there's a guy out there saying, well, the only way to be successful is to catch lawns, or the only way to be successful is to mulch lawns, or I can't believe that anybody would want to do anything a different way. It's like, man, it's just so one-dimensional, because you can make business whatever you want it to be, and that's what is so good about business, So
that's it. Yeah. I totally agree. It's my business. I'll run it how I want. If I want to run it into the ground, I'll see you at the bottom.
And that's what
it's a really good industry. Like, I've done a few other jobs, and most of it's been transport, logistics, cold storage, all that sort of stuff. And all I got told was like, the grass isn't greener on the other side. Damn, I wish I didn't listen for so long.
Sure.
Because, like, there's, I was lucky. Like, I had Benny to sort of introduce me to the industry, and I could get a lot of knowledge out of him, and a lot of things not to do and what to do, and where sort of the money is in his eyes. And look, without Ben's guidance when I first started, I might have, folded after a couple of years. But no, it's a really good industry. I think people sometimes take it for granted. You can build a business quite easily. It's when you start to really, so like you were talking before about invest, like money, like your turnover, sorry. It means nothing. Like, I could cancel out my entire turnover in 2 or 3 purchases. Like, it's it can mean nothing, or it can mean you're doing like $250,000 profit, depending on how you work. So it's finding the balance, I think.
Yeah, and I've had, one of the things that people know who listen to this is I like to talk about embarrassing moments and mistakes, and I talk about my own embarrassing moments and mistakes because I think it's good for me. I like having a laugh about it too, but I think the industry, it's changing because of social media, which is good. but there is still a hell of a lot of people who just want to put up their best day. And you said it before. He was like, "Hey, look, if you want to be, basically, you were saying something around sort of, if you want to celebrate your successes, go for it." Like, I love seeing that too. I love it when people put out a cash cannon post. It's
awesome.
just like, sweet man, good job. Like, let's celebrate with you. But then you get the people who it's like, I've never made a mistake before, and you know that they have because everybody's made a mistake. But if you're not sharing it, it's just you're not a real person. You're not a real. You're this. Yeah, it's not, and that's why back to what we're talking about. What you and Ben do on Skull Sessions. You call yourself the most unprofessional podcast in the country for this side of the industry, but it's also very helpful in that you're not trying to pretend to be somebody who you're not. You're just being you, and I'm just being me on this podcast, and we're just telling stories and I think that's why people like to listen and they like to check in because they're like, yeah, man, these guys are real and they're not, I can believe them. And, they're going to start a podcast talking about drinking stories and next minute, that guy taking photos on your driveway actually was the police and they're scanning you out for previous misdemeanors.
Yeah. Oh, good. Cool. Yeah. No, it's, no, it is crazy, man. Like the Skull Sessions has sort of opened up a whole nother avenue of like chatting to people. I love it. Like I really do love interacting with the community. Most of the community. We have our controversies on the Skull Sessions, which we won't go into, but we do get a few people that drop off because they don't like the way we talk, the way we do swear, and that's just us. Like that's how we talk. Sometimes we get a bit passionate and maybe swear more than we probably should, but we try and be conscious of it. And look, as soon as you have to be conscious of something, I think that you're not being yourself. So it's a sort of a fine line between being yourself and kind of trying to appeal to extra people. Because at the end of the day, like it's we're not making a fortune out of it. Like we just actually like doing it. It's good for me and Benny. Like we get to catch up. We shoot the shit like an hour before. Like we'll talk about our week. And Benny and I are quite close. Like I talk to him every week at least 3 or 4 times. And then we do the podcast together. And sometimes we'll see each other at family events and things like that. Like pretty much all at his place because, when we say we're family, my wife's his second cousin, so it's not like, he's my dad or anything. So
really? I thought he was.
He looks a bit more like my mum than my dad.
Oh dear, he needs to grow his beard out to prove that he could be your dad. Like mustaches are up, but he's got to get the the lower half sorted too.
The old silver fox. No, it's been great. Like having Benny on, on Team BJ and vice versa. I think having me there has been good. Like it's nice. Like we bounce off each other. I get to test a lot of his new products, and I'll give him honest feedback. I think that's one thing that really is sort of lacking in the industry is honest feedback. I think people are a bit frightened. Like I do a lot of work with Bush Ranger now, doing testing for them. Obviously, like I'm balls deep in Scag. Like I just love everything about Scag, and people sometimes get turned off by it. But look, realistically, like that's me. Like I'm very loyal. Like I'm always going to be like a Scag fan, and whatever. Like same with Catch Pro. Like Ben's sort of helped me. His products have helped my business. So I'm always going to be a Catch Pro lover. Some people don't like it. Some people find it a bit of a gimmick, but realistically, like my business would not be where it is today without Scag, Catch Pro, and Bush Rangers really coming in solid now. Like letting me test their commercial battery gear. Like I got to test their new backpack sprayer, which is a battery sprayer. Like I've got the new 21-inch. The boys have just finished with it. I gave it to them for a week. My road crew, the 21-inch SFC21. Yep. And like they picked it apart for me. Now I'm going to take it out on the road and do my own testing. Just like this industry, like I was saying before, it's just so cool. Like there's so many things. If you really want to do something, like just do it. Like approach people. I do know, like sitting in the background and talking to so many people, so many brands and like CEOs and things like that. That sounds weird, me saying I'm speaking to CEOs. I still don't get that. But the amount of people that the amount of people that approach these brands is incredible. Like
Really?
some of them, yeah, oh, mate, it's 6 or 7 messages a week, a day, sorry, from brands getting asked for free stuff, and I'll test this, and I do this
Wow,
and
I didn't
that, and
realize.
this is how. There's a lot of it. And look, I can't even like there'd probably be like 20, 30,000 lawnmower companies. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
a ton of them wouldn't be on LMCA. So we just see like a little drop, and on LMCA there's a ton of brand ambassadors, brands, and all those sort of things. So the other 45,000 or whatever that are out in the community, they're the ones bombarding all these brands, and it's good. Like some of them would be good value, I think, for some brands to pick up. Some of them not
Yeah.
so much, just looking for a
No,
freebie.
I totally understand that, because when you're, I just find it fascinating that you've got so many people, or not you, but that they would have so many people message them. I wonder what's the
Yeah.
what's the angle?
Oh,
It's like
the most common, because people love free stuff, but they don't understand that it's not free stuff. Like you are working for them. Like when I'm testing stuff for Bushranger, like I'll make sure that my feedback is solid and honest. I'll pick apart the machine that they've given me. Like right now, I've got like a full set of stuff that no one else in the country has from Bushranger, and like I'll have to use it and abuse it and see where the faults are, and like let them know. And if I don't give them an honest answer, they bring something out to the market and they're like, "Oi, dickhead!" The hedger exploded in someone's face, and now we've got a lawsuit.
Well, I was just
But
thinking, like, I was chuckling because you're like, I'm the only person who's got it in the country, and it's just funny. It's like, how did we start this podcast? And like they trusted you. It's like, are you going to break it? Like,
yeah, exactly, man. That's exactly right. Like,
so this is why I liked it.
I think,
yeah, that's what, exactly. You are you. And, you don't get 8 or 9 years into the industry as an idiot, and people trust you because you will tell those stories. And if you're going to tell those stories about yourself, then you're not going to rip into a brand that you just hate, and you're not going to support a brand just because they're giving you a little bit of cash on the side or something like that. It's genuine. It's you. You're open and honest,
Yeah, yeah. And when I became a brand ambassador for Scag, was like one of my happiest days in business ever. Like working with Scag has been the highlight across the board. Like the people, the machines, obviously I fell in love with, but it's behind the machines. Like the people that international mowers, they're such good people, and they've become family. Like we say Scag family, and people are like, "Oh, wankers," and I'm like, it's not like that at all. Like we just all look after each other. Like you wouldn't believe. Like what you see on social media isn't all what the Scag family is about. Like people talk. The whole community is like a community inside a community. So like we all talk to each other. We have groups. Scag Down Under's huge on Facebook. That group is blowing up, and like that they're all open book. Like Rob Shearer will just throw his number up on a public forum for anyone to call him about anything Scag. I'll do the same. Like open up my channels to anyone who wants to talk about Scag, or Bushranger or Catch Pro, whatever. It's just it's a good valuable resource as well. Like there's things happening behind the scenes with Scag that I am so excited about. It's going to be a really, really good year. If we can get it all done this year, I think it's going to be a really good thing for contractors. And I can't really say too much. I wish I could, but yeah, not real good at the whole honesty comes in. I'm not too good at keeping secrets. So don't push me.
Well, maybe I shouldn't have told you the secret before I opened up this podcast.
No, it's all right.
The secret was that beep, and so no. Do you know, I'm going to put a real beep there.
That was a long swear.
That was more. That was what I was intending it to be. Yeah, exactly. It was 16 syllables, a new swear word. Okay, let's get into the Scag stuff, because I mean this is a crazy story, because this brand, big in America, no one ever heard of it over here. I hadn't really ever heard of Scag over here. You know, I'd heard of Hustler and all that sort of stuff. I still, full disclaimer, I still have never touched a single bit of Scag gear in my life, right? And I think it's just because the dealerships, they're not in my area, right? There isn't anybody around here. I know Scag came out here; they were looking for a few places to try and grow. I'm not affiliated with anybody on the ride-on, sort of mower area now. I mean, people hit me up, but I mean, they're probably sick of getting the 6 requests a day, aren't they? But what is it? What's happened over the last? Take us behind the scenes, because I've heard that in the last couple of years, Scag has gone off the charts, and I think a lot of that's probably got to do with these Facebook groups and people like yourself and stuff. But is that true? Have they just gone from 0 to 100, and all of a sudden they went from sort of what seems like just a normal mower business to like a bit of a cult following almost,
I think 100%. Like the last 3 years have been incredible for Scag. Like they were starting to grow when I jumped on board and I bought my first Scag.
Yeah.
And sort of I started posting things, and look, I bought a Tiger Cat, a 48-inch Tiger Cat straight up, and it was I've been lucky enough with Ben. We do a lot of demos, or we did a lot of demos. He's currently got one of the Greenworks standards
I saw that
in his shed right now. Yeah, so look, it's been really good because he has been affiliated with so many different brands. I've got to test a lot of mowers.
Yeah.
And look, I just 100%, I just rated this Scag, and I was frothing over it for so long. It wasn't even 6 months, and I think I already had my 32 on order.
Yeah, wow.
And then it just grew from there. Like my business grew, like everything just grew together. So like I had my 48, my 32, I had 2 contracts. Then, I had my 48, and then I got a 3rd contract, got my 32. Then I got another contract, and it just kept growing and growing. So we grew together, and I was putting out good content, and Scag were realizing that and like helping me put out good content. And and again, like I just took the honesty route. Like people will say I'm bullshit. Like I'm a liar. I'm biased because I talk so much love for Scag and things like that. And people can think what they want. Obviously, like I have a little bit of bias because it's what I use. And I don't think anyone who spends $30,000 on a mower is going to admit that they made the wrong choice. I really don't think that people are out there.
You'd have to really stuff up.
I can't get another. Yeah. You'd have to and that's fine. And other people have their brand preferences. But for me, Scag worked perfectly in my business. I knew it was super heavy duty, and that's like being a big dude.
Yeah.
Like I really wanted like the most heavy duty units I could get, and Scag ticked all the boxes for me. And then Rob Shearer and I started talking, and we got together, and I became an ambassador, and
the rest is history.
It's just been great. Yeah. And it's good, man. Like I said, they're amazing people to work with. Like the opportunities that have come my way because of Scag, like I never would have been able to go to the Equip Expo last October if it wasn't for Scag. It just wouldn't happen. Like the amount of cost involved, and the amount of time off and cost involved would have been phenomenal, like huge.
Yeah, exactly.
So they took me across. They took care of me. They took me to the F1s. I've got to meet dealers from around the country, and that's another thing. Like the networking is huge. Like I get to talk to so many people, and I get to learn a lot from people who've been in the industry for a long time. It's awesome for me too. Like knowing so many dealers, and these dealers are mechanics as well. I've just got like, if I need something, I'm just like, hey, can you send me this? And it's awesome. And look, none of my machines have faulted in any way. Like my
Yeah.
V-Rad's got like 500 hours on it. Tiger Cat's got something like 650 or something like that. Um,
No
none
issues.
of none of them have exploded. I'm obviously racking up hours on my Turf Tiger now. I got a 61-inch Turf Tiger, and that's an absolute animal. And it's just all things are good. And then I've got the 30-inch, like the 30-inch walk behind. Rob's going to send me the caster kit. If you listen to this, Rob, I'd like one of those caster conversion kits.
Yeah, get your
That'd
act
be
together,
awesome.
Rob. Come on, Rob. Help a man out.
Dude, so I said to him, I was like, can I have a Scag flag for my shed? And I actually, just before we started the podcast, something rocked up because, he's like on the phone, and it got ordered. It got sent the same afternoon, and it was on my doorstep. So I opened it up,
Awesome.
and it's this big Scag flag. I'm like, yeah. I get
so good.
excited. I get real excited about things like that. And I like to make other people excited. Like if you buy a machine for $17,000, $20,000, $28,000,
Yeah.
you want confidence in it. You want it to be like a high point in your business. So
Yeah, it should
that's
be.
why it's like, welcome to the Scag Fam. Like, there's just so many things. It's really cool, man. It's something that I've never experienced in any of my other industries. Like
Yeah.
yeah, they were all pretty sad, to be honest.
Well, I think here's what I get from you, right? Is the Scag stuff. It seems to me that there's two sides for it. Well, to start with this, that the Scag product isn't necessarily the best thing for everybody. Just like how you said the Walker wasn't a good fit for you, doesn't mean it's a bad fit for everybody else too. But the two things that I sense from you is that like you actually do believe in this product, and it's more than just the product. It's the people around it and everything else that's going on. And there's something about that where in business, it's like for me, I'm much more interested in buying a mower from a shop from people I can trust and enjoy and get along with. And even if it wasn't that great, if it was 90% of the way there but missing a few things, the relationships are far more important over time than
Yeah.
the last 10%. It seems like you got both though, where you got the quality and good people, which is it is rare. And I think that's it sounds like that's probably what's so attractive to people and why the brand's grown so much in Australia, And I don't have a horse in the race because, I've
Yeah.
I've got a walker myself. I've got a commercial walker, so one of the most expensive ones, and we only use it for, a couple of jobs here and there. No, it doesn't get used much at all. It's really just there for a beautiful finish on an oval. I've had a Hustler sit down. I've had a fast track, and I've currently got the Hustler Super S stand on mower. But I think anybody who's got any bit of, they can appreciate what you're sort of talking about there. Good family, good, or like a business family, I guess. Good service, good equipment. Sounds like a lot of fun. Let's
And the
talk
longevity
about.
too. So
Yeah,
I
you
was
go.
just going to say, like one of the big things, because I speak to Rob a lot. One of the most exciting things, actually, he told me was when he did all the numbers, ran all the figures at the last time he did that, and he told me about the warranty claims. So I think on
Okay.
average, like your normal, like other brands. I don't like naming brands, and I'll never diss another brand. I will point
Yep.
out differences in brands, but I won't diss them because
Yep.
there's enough market share not to have to talk shit about other people's brands.
Yep.
So 0.2% warranty claims. Most of these other brands are aiming for 3%. So
Wow.
0.2% is really good. Like that's really good. I was impressed, and that made me feel good that I was confident that it wasn't just me having a good experience. That's people across the country. Um, and like the longevity on the machine. Scotty Osborne threw up a video on Scag Down Under today, and he's got a Tiger Cub in there from the 90s that used to be an ex-council machine. It's got over 3,000 hours on it, and he can't actually read the dials anymore. It's sort of so old that the dials are gone, and
Yeah.
he went over the deck, and the deck integrity was like A1. It was awesome. So they're the sort of things I love to see, and I think they're the sort of things that propel the brand forward.
And this is one of the things about let's get into price of mowers, because we talked on the phone yesterday. We're talking about it was FSC21. Is that new 21-inch self-propelled mower? I said, BJ, send one over here for me to use for a day or something like that. But here's what I want to talk about, which I think is really fascinating. Is we'll talk about a different brand which you have no experiences with, which is MoMaster, which are a cylinder mower brand over here in WA. And we're going to get the MoMaster guys on one day on the podcast too. And
Yeah,
the thing about MoMaster is I've got a MoMaster that I've had since 2015. I got it. It was 6 months old, so it was used. So it was an early 2015 model, and basically another business bought it and then realized it didn't quite fit what they were trying to do. It was actually like a building maintenance business, and they tried to go off into gardening and then realized, it's too difficult we'll stick to building maintenance and subcontract it. And so that, it'd been used and had a few scratches. I don't even know how many hours or how many lawns, but it'd be thousands of lawns have been cut by this mower, right? Last couple of years, we've been using it as what you would call a scalping pig, which is when you're doing your verti mowing and you cut it down to dirt. So this cylinder mower is hitting all sorts of rubbish. It just gets abused, right? The only thing that has ever broken on that mower is a single spring. That's it. Literally, that is it. And the thing about this, which is, I bought it for, I think, $5,000. I think it was about $6,000 new. I knew the business owner. He gave me a deal. So you think $6,000 for a walk behind mower. The prices are going up these days because 2015 is 8 years ago. Yeah, gee, it's an 8-year-old machine. But so it's probably a $7,500 machine now, right?
Yeah.
But $6,000 over 8 years is it's about $800 a year. What rotary mower is better value for money than that, right? If you go out and you go get yourself, let's talk about a Honda HRU 216, probably the most common one mower that people are going to get, right? If you're abusing it, you'll get a year and a half out of it. If you're treating it really well, you might get 3.5, maybe 4 years out of it. You might get some good value for money, but you still got to replace stuff on it, like air filters, blades, all that sort of stuff. I literally am on the same bottom blade and the same cylinder I've had on that machine. When I say the only thing I've replaced is a spring, I should say air filters as well. That's literally it. That's the only maintenance I've ever done. And anybody who knows anything about business knows that the most expensive thing about equipment is not the purchase price. It's when it breaks down and you can't do work with it. If you're doing $1,000 a day of work with your 21-inch mower and it breaks down, 2 days of that, and you may as well have bought a new mower, right? You know what I mean?
I totally hear you. Yep.
And so I think the smart contractor, and whether it is a Scag, because again, I'm not affiliated, but whether it's Scag or whatever other brand, MoMaster or whatever, the smart contractor knows that warranty claim is worth a lot of money, what you're talking about there. Yep. Having things that just don't break, having things that really survive, So that's quite interesting. So let's talk about I want to get into the SFC21 because I think there is a space in the market where I think for the last couple of years, people have been wanting something a little bit different in that 21-inch mower segment.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
So I'm really curious on now. You haven't quite used it yet, by sound of it. Your team have, but
I've used it a bit. I've mowed a few lawns with it. But I put it on the boys' rig and I wanted them to use it all day, every day.
Yeah.
And just see how at the end of the week they felt with it. So that's what I did. Look, to be honest, like you see, like I've watched the trends on LMCA, like people were not happy with Honda. People were blowing up every day. There was someone, talking about their gearbox.
Yes.
There's a little spring on the side there. So, you know, and as soon as you post stuff about this SFC21, that's so what's a Honda 216? Probably like $1,500,
No, they're
$1,600
more
now.
than that.
I know the two.
I'll
Are they the
Google it right now.
217's like 1,800? That's the unfortunate thing is you'll post something up that's more expensive than what they're used to, and it'll just, you know, people just start playing that diss track. Why would you pay that much for it? And no one's used it. And, you know, how do you know that this machine is not going to take you 3 or 4 years past where that Honda might take you, or that Massport, or whatever it may be? Obviously, they're new to the market. Um, the 30-inch, there's a lot of 30 inches now in the market. Um, I don't get, like, everybody straight away was like they're too heavy. There's a dude down in Melbourne. I saw him throwing around his 30-inch like it was nothing, and he was about 5'5", and you know he was just going for it. Like he it didn't seem like he was struggling at all. Like I haven't got the casters on mine, and I still love it. Like it doesn't create that big of a drama. It's a self-propelled machine, so it's the weight's taken off you. Turning, you know, you just have to use the machine in an appropriate yard. You can't really use a 30-inch
No,
machine that
yeah, of
weighs 100
course.
kilos in a courtyard. I'll be 100% honest about that. But realistically, this 21-inch went up, and all I've seen is like, there's been, look, I won't say, it's like 50-50. People are saying, you know, it's a really nice machine, does a really good job. And then other people are like, you know, it doesn't justify the $3,000 price tag.
Well, I don't
But
think
you know what? As soon as people hear that there's a 7 horsepower variant going on a 21-inch
crazy.
machine, I think people change their tune a little bit. Look,
Well, I don't. I
it's a
think anyone who says anything categorically about a piece of equipment they haven't used is not worth listening to. Right, like unless
yeah,
there is a lot of data on it, like let's say there's years and years and years of a certain machine being rubbish, and everybody knows
yeah,
it, and because they're sharing someone else's experience, okay, I can listen to that. But when you've got a brand new bit of gear and they're like, how can you justify the price? Well, then how can you not justify the price? Like it goes both ways.
that's
If
exactly right. Yeah,
if you've used it, and then like you said with the machine we talked about before with the walker, my walker, you know, I'm really enjoying it, but I'm using it for a certain type of thing. Your walker didn't fit your business. That's a different conversation. You know what I mean? Like it was
yeah,
used secondhand. It's
yeah.
hard to quantify those things, but that's your honest, open experience, and we can take that. But if you had never used a walker and you said, oh, they're this, they're that, or you would never use a Scag and you started praising them, it doesn't matter. It's like we don't care about your opinion because what
Yeah.
experience do you have? So I just don't. This is why I started with the MoMaster story, because it's like for me, I would love. I don't get why people poo poo brands, because I would love every brand to be amazing, because how good would that be for the contractor community?
Yeah.
You know, if people might slag on Ego products, or they might slag on Milwaukee products, or they might slag on the Honda because of the gearbox stuff, you know. But it seems like they've sort of fixed that. I don't know. But anyways,
Yeah, look, I think that every company has their issues, and I think that the majority of people, their Hondas all performed well, but when something went wrong, and like people were angry. You spend good money on commercial equipment, and I think you should get, you know, taken care of when things go wrong. And I think sometimes that wasn't happening, whether it be because of COVID and, you know,
yeah, the COVID
the
made
lack of
things really
supply
tough.
and things like that. Yeah, and it was just like the perfect storm, and it just ruffled some feathers. But yeah, like I just think that the Scag mower, like if you get it in your hands and you're not impressed, then that's a different story to just looking at photos and being, oh, like, yeah, that's not for anyone.
So
I
I
think
googled I googled up the Honda HRU 216 price, and it's around the 1,700 mark regular retail. And so
yeah.
what's
So what's the
the
217 going for?
oh, let me Google. Don't know.
Yeah,
I've never used a
because I know
217.
yeah. So I know, like, you know, your 216 is lighter. Your Bush Range is lighter. Um, but comparable mowers would the way the deck construction is, I think comparable mowers would be a comparable weight. But
It's roughly
it's
the
just
same price by looking. There's a few different prices coming up here,
okay.
but I'm basically getting the same. It's hard to know on the internet because it's like,
There's so many variants as well. I think there's three or four
is.
variants of each.
There's one at Bunnings which is 1,100 apparently, but that can't be the same thing as what I'm seeing here. That's 1,700. Anyways, so what's the Scag one costing, and what's the differences? Like,
so there's a 5 horsepower Kohler and a 7 horsepower variant Kohler as well, the Command Pro. That is the 7 horsepower is going to be 3,300, and that should be here in August. I think I double check with your dealer, but I know that they're going to start selling the 5 horsepower, which is $3,000. They're going to be sold in August as well. So yeah, they should be hitting your dealer in August, which I can't wait for. Because look, I can do all the testing in my business, and I can love a machine, and someone else might get it and say this is not for me, which is unfortunate. But look, I'm not. My business is like a maintenance business. Like we're not throwing. Look, it's a finishing mower. The same with the 30-inch. And it's the same with the Toro 30-inch. Like they're not meant to be bush pigs. Like you're not going to put them into 5-foot grass and expect amazing results. Like their chute will block and things like that. But for what we use it for maintenance, like fortnightly maintenance and at the moment monthly maintenance, it is a fantastic mower. We've caught in the wet with it, like not rain, but we've had really dewy mornings up here in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So we've caught in like semi-wet conditions, and it's performed really well. Bags really nicely in dry conditions. I have not used a single mower yet that has bagged better and filled the catcher like the Scag SFC30. Sorry, 21. It's the pack is like, it's like a bale of hay. So I was talking to Will Hartford, who has done an amazing job with all the testing. He designed and manufactured a swingback system for the SFC21. My hat's off to him, because he used like a plasma cutter to do like to get like it all perfect. And he's done a great job. He's got a video up on Scag Down Under and on Rosebud Mowers and Chainsaws and on LMCA of him cutting like 6-inch grass. So he's mulched it and he's caught it, and the pack is amazing. So of course, as soon as we threw it up there, people were asking, why did you do a swing back? Like, is there something wrong with the bar blade system? No, there's no problem with the bar blade system. It's just that people like choice. The Americans don't really do swingbacks.
Yeah.
Australians love swingbacks. It's like our thing. And Will saw an opportunity, he went for it, and he did a bloody good job. So my hat's off to him. It's actually, he said that the way it packs the catcher with the swingbacks is even better than with the bar blade. So I'm excited to. I was supposed to get a set, but I think Rob's going to get one first.
Well, I mean, you gave me time.
I can't argue.
I
can't argue with him.
My opinion on this at the moment is we got to get it out into the market, have a look at it. But there'll be some people who it'll be the perfect mower, because even a bad mower for somebody might be the perfect mower for somebody else.
Yeah, so exactly. Same as the Walker situation to me.
Exactly. I've actually been thinking about this with a lot of the battery gear videos that you see out there, because there's a lot of reviews and stuff, and people do these reviews on battery gear, and they keep doing overgrown stuff and testing out on overgrown stuff, and I get it because that's interesting, but it's like, who's doing overgrown with a battery? It's just not the right. It's not the right. It's not a test. Basically, I've been considering, because we've got a bunch of Hondas that we've been using. Some of them are getting to the end of their life. and it's like probably I might need to replace some, before you start having problems, proper problems and things like that. But I was just thinking, I was like, okay, I'm looking at this battery stuff. I don't care if it's overgrown. I don't do overgrown. A lot of times as well, like when you at like a real contractor, it's a contractor in the real world, how they're going to cut an overgrown lawn is if it's really overgrown, you probably do the first cut with a whippy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're really going to slash it down, it just depends how high it is and what type of lawn it is, and each person might have a slightly different way of going about it. But who sends any mower on their finishing height into something that's 30 centimeters tall? And so the reviews, I get, you try and test how powerful it is, but ultimately, if that's only something you're going to do 1% of the time, I don't care. I'd prefer to see.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, but then you might find that if you get this 7 horsepower 21 inch, that's like 30% more power than an average one.
Yeah. So that's what's on the 30-inch mower.
Okay, on the 30 inch. So is there going to be 7 horsepower on the 21 inch, or is that just asking for trouble?
Yeah. No,
on the 21 inch. Okay,
7
so
horsepower on the 21.
That's because I thought you were saying that before. So if you get 7 horsepower on 21 inch, right, and you got some sharp blades, I mean, the maths just checks out to be pretty brutal on some overgrown stuff. And I think
it's like, I think the Kohler Command Pro is like 224cc. Someone said like horsepower is outdated or something. So that's one of the specs for that Kohler Command Pro.
Horsepower just sounds cool. It's
it does, doesn't it?
There's something about it. It's like when it's like kilometers and miles. It's like kilometers makes more sense, but it's just so much harder to say than miles. You know what I mean?
And look, Will had a really good point. I saw him write back to someone's comment and said, look, in regards to because people like Kohler isn't a huge thing here in Australia.
Yeah.
And these Kohler engines, people are skeptical. I can say 100% these Kohler engines perform. They're really quiet for what they are. They can be dialed up just the same as any other engine.
Mm-hmm.
They incorporate new technology. So one of the things he said was Honda just haven't changed their engines in forever. So like Kohler is kind of, a little bit more technology side, and it's interesting to see everyone's point of view. But I think if no one ever uses it, how's it ever going to become a thing? Like there's shortages of engines all over, so I don't even know if there would be another option for Scag to put on those machines. I don't know of any other 7 horsepower small block engines to chuck on top of one of these push mowers. So
have you
it's
ever
a really
seen,
good engine. Like,
have you seen the guy on YouTube called Project Farm? Have you ever seen? He's the guy who
is
reviews.
He the dude that? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
He reviews heaps of stuff. So he will get like 7 different angle grinders and just put them all through the same test, and 10 different drills, and 6 different knife sharpeners, and just does everything. Lawnmower blades, penetrant oils like WD-40, all sorts of stuff. And he's done some on Honda engines with like cheaper models and things like that. And I don't think he's done a Kohler in there, but he did I remember this is for like a horizontal shaft, not a vertical shaft. So what you would find on a pressure washer or a cylinder mower or aerator, different type of mower. But the Honda, he compared it to 3. It was a Honda, a Chinese copy, and then the Predator Power engines. The Predator Power ones that have been coming out, cheap Honda, really cheap.
I haven't seen them.
Oh, they're like super cheap engines. They're really common in like the Scott Bonner restoration scene, because if you're paying $350 for like a Briggs and Stratton, you can get the Predator one for like, I don't know, don't quote me, but it's like $200 or something. Like it's almost half the price. It's ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
And so he's put this top of the line Honda versus these cheaper ones. And honestly, I mean the Honda won for sure, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a night and day thing, because I think what happens is maybe back in the day you had the brands like your Stills, your Husqvarnas, your Hondas, and they came up with some technology that really worked, and they had the distribution to make it popular and they had all the marketing and everything. But once they make it, somebody can just go spend $500, buy the engine, tear it apart, copy it, right? And
Copy it. Yeah.
and so, you know, I think over time those things do level out, and we're at a stage now where it's really, like, to be fair, in the real world, is there that much difference? Because, you know, yeah, your Honda engines, you can absolutely abuse the heck out of them and they don't break down. But to be fair, I have a Kohler. The very first mower I got was a Super Swift with a Kohler, right? It was an 18-inch Super Swift, just a, you know, classic thing. That I never had an issue with that engine either, and I think I used it for about a year and a half, right? And what I'm getting at is the problems with the mowers usually are things like transmissions, holes in the decks, right? Other problems come before the engine breaks, right? I've never heard of anybody be like, oh, the Honda HRU216, it's like amazing at everything except the engine broke down. It's like, no, it's like you replaced the deck twice before the engine broke down. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that an engine that's 20% not as good, not saying that about Kohler could be better, but you could get a cheap engine that's 80% as good, but you're only going to use it for 60% of that life anyway before the deck breaks and the wheels fall off. And, you know, it's just, you got to get a new one anyway.
Well, that's the question too. Like, there's no diss for. I've got plenty of Hondas down the back here that are. You know, I've still got my first mower I ever bought, and it's my house mower. It's been put to one side now because every opportunity I have, like, I'm using a Scag.
You're going to mow your 3 square meters with a 61 inch.
That's exactly right.
Why would you do it any other way?
I've taken my 32 and I've driven my 32 into my little front yard and just punched that in like 2 seconds, just for something to do. Of course. But like I love the Honda engines. There's a reason why they haven't changed. But the thing is, like, people are like, oh, Kohler, because it's just not. It's not been in their face. But like, Honda is ingrained in Australian culture as like the mower of choice. So when something new comes along, it's always going to be a bit of a tough sell. But
they deserve it too, right? It's not. We're not saying that they don't 100%. Deserve it. But we're just saying it's like,
I think
for me, it's more just stop. Don't shoot something down before you've actually tried it or before you've actually seen it.
That's it.
And there may be some. So what I'm getting at with the lifetime of the machine is there may be some stats that show that certain brands maybe don't have longevity in certain ways, or this or that, whatever. But ultimately, it's like, how does that work in your business for you? Because, like, for example, if you're doing overgrown lawns, you know, somebody might say, I've got this machine and I've been using it on light stuff for 10 years and never broke down, and you use it for 6 weeks on overgrown stuff and just can't handle it. It's, you know, you've got to try it, is what I'm saying, before you have an opinion. And
that's it. And look, I know that every new product, whether it's from Scag or from any other brand, is there's always going to be haters. You know, like, you see it when someone posts about a 32 and you'll get all these people with their like their impressions of a 32, and they're like, oh, the tires on a Scag are thin and they'll leave track marks and things like that. The tires on every 32 machine is going to be thin.
Yeah.
So it just, like, you know, why just sort of focus on that one? It's bizarre, but you know, it's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome thing. If one brand is getting the spotlight, then you know, people will gravitate towards the negatives, and it is what it is. Like, I don't think anyone really cares, especially not in the Scag world. We're all Scag Fam, hashtag Scag Fam, and we all just take it on the chin. I think there's been an email go out to everyone and just be like, don't bite.
Oh, don't bite. Oh, okay. I thought you
said, don't bite. Don't.
I thought you said don't buy it. It's like, what?
No, buy it.
That makes no
sense.
No,
buy that. Buy that one. Yeah. No, don't bite. Because there are a lot of people that like to, you know, dangle the bait in front.
Let's talk about this then. When was the last time that you were? I asked Ben this question too, and it was quite interesting. When was the last time that you used a product that you personally were blown away by? Because sometimes what happens is, and I'm not talking about something that you knew was going to be good and it ended up being good. I'm talking about something that you thought would be, oh yeah, this would be all right. And then it wow, the value for money was through the roof, or maybe something you thought was going to be rubbish and it turned out to be pretty good? Like, when was the last time you were impressed, surprised, blown away?
I have to say, probably like when I bought my truck.
Yes.
Like I bought my truck, and obviously I got all my racks put on with Ben. We did like a big day on the tools, and we put all of my racks on, and I had to change a few around, but um, that as a whole, with my 61 on the back, my equipment defender racks, and like all my gear on that. Yeah, it's huge. Like it's amazing. Like everything, it's just there. Um, I can go into tight access. I can go through drive-throughs. I can go and get a coffee when I
Yep.
want.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
my Hilux and trailer, there's no way that's going around the drive-throughs
Yeah.
around here.
Yeah. How many times do you
And
pick
it's
your
also
lunch
it's
as a contractor? I mean, how many times do you go, oh, what do I want for lunch? And you're like, I'd really like this thing, but I can't make that tight corner in the drive-through. And so I'm just going to get the other thing, which has got it's got the straight drive-through, or it's a bit wider, Do it
it's
all the time.
horrible. Like I feel for truckies and things like that, but they have truck stops. We don't really have that sort of luxury. Even pulling up, if you're working in the CBD or something, I don't know what you do. You'd obviously have to downscale your rig a bit just so you can go and get some sushi for lunch.
Well, we've got the same truck because you've got a NLR 45 150, right?
Yeah, short wheelbase.
Yep, short silver.
Yep,
Yep, we got
that's
exactly the
it.
same truck. How many Ks has yours done now? I think I got mine first, so
Uh,
you copied me.
just under 10, so
Oh,
about
wait,
9.5 or
yours is
something like that.
brand new. We're getting close to 50.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, nice.
yeah, I mean, it is the thing that blew me away about that truck. See, I'm glad I didn't in the end, but I'm sort of disappointed that I couldn't. I wasn't able to. This is a dumb thing. I wasn't able to get a loan for more trucks, even though I was able to get a loan for cars. And it was like this is really weird rule change. Sometimes they do this for you, where it's like they will say, yeah, you can get you can get $100,000 car if you wanted to. Well, I don't want $100,000 car. I want a $55,000 truck. And they're like, well, the problem is that we don't see that as having the same resale value as a car or whatever it was. I don't even know what the problem was. But anyway, I ended up getting a $30,000 Hilux instead of the truck. And they're just not the same thing. And the reality is as well,
No.
for those, when you talk about repayments, you got to, when you're thinking about the cost of a vehicle, right, think about how much it costs on fuel and how much it costs in servicing. Your truck, my truck, 15,000 Ks is when you service it, right? Utes, 10,000 Ks. Trucks, they're slow. You put your foot down, takes a while, but they tow basically at the same speed they drive on their own, right? Like they tow so well. They handle weight so well. And the fuel efficiency.
No difference when I've got my turfy on board.
It 100%, right? When we put, so we're towing the trailer, which will have let's say it's full of waste. It'll be 400 kilos worth of waste, cylinder mower 160, other bits of gear here. They probably weigh 60, 70, 80 kilos, 400 kilograms Super S on the back. And it's 1-2% slower than on its own. It's just slow all the time, but it's but we're getting 14 liters per kilometer from the truck fully loaded, right? And it's 18 liters per kilometer from the Hilux with less weight, right? And so it's
that's it. I get a little bit better than you actually.
Well,
I get 12.5 when I've got the turfy, but you probably have a bit more weight on there.
Well, we tow all the time. So
mine's just directly onto the back. I did make a mistake though. So when we swapped and put the racks on and stuff, I'm front mounting my machine now. So the mistake I made was I've got 3 meter whips ramps, and I need the 3.4s because I bottom out
the angle.
So now I have to stick something underneath the ramps to sort of get that extra height to load and unload my machine. It was an oversight. I completely cooped that, and I didn't actually realize until I mounted Benny's new quick lock and stuff like that, which is an excellent system. And I'd rather spend another $1,000 on a new set of ramps than go back
Oh
to
yeah.
using all the straps. So
Well, you'll find that, yeah, I mean, that is a downside because we have that trouble loading up verti mowers because our verti mowers are like they're 160 kilos, right? They're the same thing, same basic shape as a cylinder mower. And we put them onto the side of the ramp, and we have these wooden ramps that we've made that hook into the side of the truck or the side of the ute or whatever. And the angle, because the truck is just higher, the angle is so much harder to get the verti mower up. So there's tiny little things like that. I do get what you mean because you do bottom out, but like just what I was getting at with cost is if you're paying, say you're paying $150 a week. I'm just rounding up the numbers here. Let's say you're paying $150 a week for a ute, and the truck costs you $200 a week. Well, how much a week are you paying in fuel for the ute, and how much a week are you paying over the year in servicing for the ute? And then do the same for the truck. And what you'll... It's just a little interjection here. We had some technical difficulties, so BJ and I cut out and we couldn't hear each other for a little bit. But I'm just going to kick it back in now. You get the gist, we don't miss too much. Just explaining the weird jump in context.
All right, Luke, I'll do this by myself. Hey there, guys and girls. BJ here from TBL Property Maintenance here in Brisbane. I have taken over Luke's podcast. The Australian Lawn and Garden podcast now belongs
Can you
to
hear me?
Oh, no, he's back. I just took over. I was just experimenting with my own podcast, mate.
I was going to plug in something to fix it. It's worked. That might be how I introduce it, the podcast. Hopefully that's working now.
Yeah, no. That'd be a good one.
You look clearer than we were before. Do you know what? Let's just leave this in, right, people? We had some technical difficulties. Cool. What I was saying was when you take the cost of the car with the fuel, with the servicing, and the truck with the fuel, with the servicing, what you might find is the truck is maybe only more expensive by $20 a week or something like that. And yet you have the capacity to take on, compared to a single cab ute, it's got like maybe 40, 30, 40, 50. No, it's got way more space on the back, way more space on the back, way more carrying capacity, way more towing capacity. In fact, I believe that the truck can legally tow, if I'm not mistaken, can tow and carry more than what I can legally carry on my C-Class license. So the limitation is, I think that's the case. Maybe that's the case with the Model Up. I can't remember, but basically, you get the idea. It's another one of those things that might seem expensive in the short term, but it's actually the value for money is off the chart. Yeah. So, anyways,
and look, I don't get why they would brand it as something that wouldn't hold its value, especially in this day and age.
That's not. Well,
you know, you can't get a secondhand ute for the same price as you can buy a brand new truck.
Well, this is the thing I was saying to them, because my broker was like, "Look, man, it's just how it is," and I totally agree with you. But we had one of the mistakes. This is a different story. I'll tell you some of the problems I've had with finance over the years because some mistakes I made. But to stay on this subject, is I bought my truck before the craziness for $47,000. Right, it was a discount. Yeah, nice. I had a discount on a truck. Do you remember those days? Anyways,
yeah.
It was then when I went to go buy it again, it was like 55. And the cheapest truck that of our style in the country at the time, which had 20,000 Ks more than mine did, was 52. So I could have sold my truck for $5,000 more than I paid for it, like a year or so after I got it. And I was trying to say, it's like, guys, just do this. And I wanted to actually, in the end, I'm glad I didn't, because things changed at the business and we changed our strategy and downsized a little. But I was like, man, I wanted to get two. I wanted to have 3 trucks. And anyways, I'm glad I didn't, because at the time I wasn't in the field at all. And just personally certain seats don't suit my back at all. And that truck seat is like that. I can do a day fine. I can do 2 days fine in the truck. But if I drive in that truck every single day, I just find my back seizes up at the end of the week for whatever reason.
See, I think because I've got the new one and it's got a different seat system. It's very bouncy. Yeah, it's got a lot of bounce to it. Yeah, so it's an independent, like a suspension seat. It's not like a big benchy, like. But you know, if I had to choice between buying another Hilux and another truck, if the Hilux ever blows up, I will go for another truck just because of that reason. Like they're so versatile. Like,
100%.
You know, you can box them up or you can rack them up. And look, what I did with mine, like with everything I do, I kind of wanted to be unique. So that I don't know anyone else who's rolling around with a 61-inch orange beast on the back with all the racks, all the bells and whistles, and things like that. Like I'll make it, it'll stand out, and then I'll sign it, and then hopefully, like, you know, it gets a little bit more attention.
Are you going to do like a full wrap on it?
Finger anymore?
yeah,
I would love to. I would love to, but like money. My mind. Look, it's not even that. It's just my mind doesn't, like, I need to. So the few times I've had people looking at signage and things like that, they've asked me to basically design it. That's not me. Like, I'm coming to you because, like, I've got my logo, I've got my phone number, I've got my email. Like, that's all I'm giving you. You do the rest. Like, you make it stand out. And look, I haven't had good experiences. I had one guy who, he's like, okay, you know, send me a photo of your business card, and you know, I'll get all your details off that. I'll do something out, and we'll go from there. This dude literally took my business card and cut and pasted it onto my trailer.
What?
I'm like, that's so bad. Like, and the price that he was charging was astronomical. I'm like, no way. And I just completely ghosted him. I had another one that wasn't too bad, but just still wasn't. It was just so generic, and I'm not generic. Like, I'm a big fat bearded dude who's loud, and you know, I make crazy jokes. I just want to be unique across the board. So when it comes to my vehicle, and like I even said to Scag, like, what do you want to do with my truck? And they're like, it's your truck, man. Don't Scag the truck up. Like, make sure it's your business truck.
Man. Do it,
dude. That's what I'm saying. Like,
you need
Benny
flames.
hates tiger stripes. Benny hates tiger stripes. So I just tiger stripe the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, you need like all the wildlife. No, zebras, cheetah patterns somewhere. It becomes ridiculously crazy that you know, it looks weird, but everyone's looking at it. At least, you know, all publicity is good publicity, sort of thing.
That's it. And like, anytime anyone posts on LMCA with, like, there are some amazing rigs out there. I always am like, ooh, who did the sign writing on that? I'm just jealous that they have had good experiences with the people they have found. And some of them are like super simple, like Ben Patterson from Sidcom. I love his branding, even though he's a Scag hater. He's a good dude. He's got a great business, and he's got really good marketing. And I really look at that and be like, you know, when I spoke to Scag, I'm like, what are we going to do with this truck? And they're like, it's your truck, man. You make it about TBL property maintenance. And I was like, oh, okay. If I was going to do something with TBL property maintenance across the whole truck, it'd be similar to the way he's done it. Which it's basic, but it's bold, something like that.
I think so. My personal opinion, you need to go down the other route. It just needs to be the stupidest, craziest thing. You need an image of your homebrewed beer on there. What is it? Spirits, whatever you were doing before.
43%. Spirits. No.
You need like, just, you know, like sometimes like you see just these crazy, like usually in America, like just the weirdest things. Anyways, I'm not saying you should do that, but I am saying you should do that. But I'm not saying you should do that, but I sort of think you should do that.
Yeah. I'll see what happens. It's one of those things. There's a fine line between having a joke and then still having a professional business. So you know, I'm glad my customers don't really listen to my podcast. So I never talk bad. Like, I don't have any bad customers. I honestly, I don't have any bad customers. I've got villages where within those villages there are a couple of troublemakers, and
Yeah,
that's
every
about
village has that.
that's about as
Yeah.
bad as it gets. We just get along with everyone so well. I'm really non-confrontational. I try and fit in where other contractors in the past haven't. And look, if something needs to be changed, I'm always open to change. Like you don't learn without making mistakes. You don't go into anything knowing 100% like what you're doing and what people want. So everyone's different.
Yeah. What are you thinking is coming up around the corner for you at the business? Because you've gone off the tools a little bit. I mean, I don't know, like, but because you started it just you, right? And now you've got to the point where it's sort of running.
Yeah.
You're doing all these villages. You're doing commercial stuff. You went from resi to commercial. What's the future look like for BJ at the moment?
Look, to be honest, I came off the tools a bit too much, and I want to go back on the tools more. It sounds weird, like people are like, "What are you talking about?" I
Yeah, I
miss
understand.
being on the tools. I miss being out with the guys. I miss being connected more to these jobs that I have. And look, there's nothing I love more than jumping on the turfy and doing the 40 acres. Like, I just plug in my
Yes.
tunes and just that's my spiritual place. Like, that's where I do all my thinking. That's where I
Yeah,
do
I
my
totally
planning.
understand.
And it's gone back to monthly for 3 weeks. For 3 months, sorry. So it's just like,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I only get yeah, I only go once a month now. I'm like, where do I go now to do my thinking?
You
So
just go back and mow it for free, mate. Like, you're like, I need some, instead of paying for a psychologist, I'm here to do my own work, all right?
yeah, well, look, I've kept my head busy. I've got this event coming up on the 19th of August that I'm putting together with the help of a few close people around me. Like, brands have sort of rallied around me, and everybody seems to want to contribute. It's all for the Red Kite Foundation.
Awesome.
And look, it's one of these things that obviously I've had some stuff happen in the last couple of months, and I've needed to keep myself busy.
Yeah,
And
I understand.
yeah, man, it's keeping me busy. It's a big task. Like, this has gone from, so I went down to Dale's event, Dale Pakenham from Urban
Yep.
Turf. He
Yep.
he mate, if you want to get someone on who knows their stuff, he is an incredible businessman. He knows his numbers just as well as the next guy. Like, you guys would really have a lot of good stuff to talk about. And he's a Scag fanatic as well, so we get along really well. I spoke to him yesterday, and he helped me tighten up some numbers for a negotiation that I'm going into in a couple of weeks, which was fantastic. But like, I went to his event and I saw what he did, and I saw, like, it really was really beneficial. Like, the Red Kite Foundation's a great charity, and I just thought, why cannot the amount of contacts I have now, why can't I do the same thing? And
Yeah.
with my daughter passing away, like, I really have been in the system a lot with her disabilities, and have seen a lot of struggles with families. And obviously we knew the struggles of having a child that is in hospital a lot.
Yeah.
International Mowers, so Duncan Russell, the owner of International Mowers, is very closely affiliated with the Red Kite Foundation, and it was just a natural progression. Dale's thing benefited the Red Kite, and I thought, we can do it here too. And the amount of support I've had from brands is incredible. I think we've got. I just don't know how many more I can get there. Like, I'm doing it on my 40 acres, and they gave me the thumbs up straight away. They were awesome. They just needed a letter to sort of confirm what was going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've just been calling people, and they're more than happy to get on board. I actually just sent a letter to Super Butcher not
Yeah.
too long ago, before I spoke to you, and see if they can chip in for some snags. I haven't
Super
had a
Butcher get
response yet,
involved.
but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, putting them on blast. Like, if the thing is too, like, when they contribute, obviously they're going to be on, they're going to be at an event that is unlike any other event. Like, this is a specific lawn and garden maintenance contractors event. There's
Yeah.
not, you've got your gyms, family days, and things like that, but they're a pay to play sort of event. This event that I'm holding is a pay to play, but it's we want I want your time, and I want a donation. I don't want thousands of dollars to put up your stall and things like that. I just want you as a brand to be connected to the contractors, and I think this could be an annual event. This could be the thing that starts the annual events in our industry. Everyone wants one.
Oh, they do.
Everyone wants one.
True.
And if everyone's willing to contribute and actually commit to going to one and show the brands that people will turn up, I think it could be fantastic. So I've got lots of people from around the country too. Are you coming?
Well, I might be coming over at a different time. So
That's all right, mate. You're a long ways away.
I am. The other thing is, I might be going back to New South Wales later in the year, which I can't talk much about. But for just some cool things. But it'll be.
Why don't you come to the Gold Coast?
Well, the problem is if I go to the Gold Coast, because my family is there, right? I can't just come. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't just bring Luke and then go see all my family and not take my wife and my kids as well. So I mean,
yeah, fair enough.
It's like if I go, it's like a huge commitment to go, and what I mean. So look, anyways,
there's about 5 or 6 guys that have messaged me in the last week from as far up as Cairns and as south as Melbourne, and they're saying like we're booking, like confirm the dates, we're booking holidays. So yeah, it's awesome.
If you were if I was in Sydney, I'd be there for sure. I wouldn't even think twice. I would just drive, or fly or whatever. I'd find a way there. But we're like 4,500 kilometers away. So I'm almost as far away as possible. So, but like I said, like if I fly over, I couldn't just fly over for me, take the cheapest flights in the middle of the night, make it work, because my wife would be like, oh, it's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
my grandparents
had that when I went to the US.
Well, it's not just that. It's like all my aunties and uncles and grandparents would be like, why did you come over here and not bring your kids? Because they're the cutest things in the world, and we want to spend time. Oh, gee, thanks, guys. It's like,
I had so much guilt. Like, Lou's as big a part of my business as I am. I couldn't do what I do without her, and I had like this huge guilt that I was having so much fun in another country without her. Like it was terrible. Like it was like 3 a.m. in Nashville, and I'd been drinking since 11, 12 o'clock in the day, and I'm just like a woo girl on top of this Nashville rooftop bar, just like, woo, check this out, sending photos home. And then I feel bad. Yeah, I felt really bad. She had the kids, but it was an experience that like I'll probably never get again. And I'll always have the memes.
The memes. Do you? Here's the question. As soon as you start talking about your event, right? Let's talk about the real world stuff. Are you going to make your own alcohol for it? Like old times?
Look, man, I've been thinking like I need I don't have any other hobbies. Like I see guys like smoking meat, and I see guys brewing beer and taking like super pride in their lawns, and obviously it's like the triangle, like the dad triangle thing. Like everyone's got a hobby.
Throw golf in there, and
I don't have a hobby. Yeah, golf, man. I don't have a hobby. Like lawn mowing is my hobby. Like the business is my hobby.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you like what you do.
So,
and that's what you're talking about before, working in the industry, you didn't enjoy it, and all of a sudden you find something that you do. It's like, man, like I like doing this podcast, right? I'm getting faster, but I like doing this, and I'll be probably editing the podcast till 9 o'clock at night. But I like that, and I love it when the F1 is on, or the cricket's on, or there's some sport, because I love sport, right? So I'm like, I don't mind writing articles for my website or building plans and systems and things like that till 11 o'clock at night. It's like my problem is like I do that too much. Like, like I'll have friends who'll be like exhausted, and they'll be like, oh, I did like a 50-hour week. It's like, I don't remember a time where I didn't work Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Can I
yeah,
can
you go.
I ask like some behind the scenes of from the podcast? Like, how long does it take you to edit?
Oh, well, so it's 2:00 now in the afternoon over here because we're 2 hours behind you.
Yeah,
So typically what I do is I record the podcast in the afternoon, and then I'll spend the afternoon with my kids, not necessarily like one-on-one with them, but that's one of the great things about working for yourself is you can sort of
yeah,
like have the laptop out and play with them, sort of, you know, do a few light things there, be present, not necessarily 100% involved the whole time. And then just before
yeah.
it isn't, then I'll really go play with them and make the most of that time, half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. Help out with dinner, help out with putting them to bed. As soon as they're in bed, which is like 7:00 or something like that, I'll do work until 11:00 at night. And then, you know, shower, do my stretching for my health, go to bed, wake up in the morning at sort of, I don't know, 6, 7, because it's a bit dark now. And then bam, straight back into working. That's my life, honestly. And I love it.
Damn.
That's why I do it so much. And that's like, I like, honestly, it's just, I think people, like, I was talking to one of my guys this morning, talking to Elliot, and he is so different, and that's so fine, right? But he's like, the last thing he wants to do is reply to a text message at 9:00 at night. Whereas I'm like, it's 11:30. I should go to bed. You know, like, and it's not a workaholism either, because some people who are more bent towards they don't have that mindset, or they've never found a job they enjoy. They're like, oh, that's work. You're being a workaholic because of just blatantly how many hours you do, and it's like it's not the same thing, because if I, Luke Smith, didn't, and this is not a hypothetical. This is literally what I did when I was healthy and I was working 30 hours a week. I when I was solo, I wasn't technically solo, but when I was more solo back sort of 5-6 years ago, I would do 30 hours a week of gardening. I had admin who did everything for me, and I occasionally would get an offsider. Right, that's how my business ran.
Yeah.
I got bored, and so I got into ultra marathons. I was running ultra marathons. I was cycling. You know, I've done more than 150K cycles so many times, right? That's what I do for fun. I love challenging myself. I love pushing myself. And so it's just like the most I ever ran, I did 100 kilometers in 18 hours, right? That was a fun day. I enjoyed that. People don't get it. It's just that's how I'm wired, right? And people be like, oh, it's not. There's just some people who are wired that way. My wife is not wired that way. If she did the hours I did, it would burn herself out. She couldn't last. She couldn't make it happen. But I'm trying to
look at me. I'm definitely not wired to ride 150Ks. That's for sure. I'm built like a bloody garden shed. So,
well, I'm honestly about 20 kilos heavier. I'd say, I'd actually be a little bit more than 20 kilos heavier than I was back then. But I don't have the capacity to do that stuff anymore. Like when my health was at its worst, I couldn't have a 10-minute shower without getting swollen feet. There would be times that I didn't leave the house for like. I would go to the warehouse and back because I needed to, and the 40-minute drive would stuff my back. And I remember there was a time I went and helped. I'm a guitarist, as I have been for a long time, and helped my friend go and buy a guitar. And I drove and left the house, and I realized I hadn't left the house to do anything other than servo Coles warehouse for like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
like my health went just so bad. And that's one of the things. I mean, let's take a turn here while we're on this subject, right? Because we're talking about the podcast and stuff. But let's talk about this because there's something that this will get a bit real, right? If we can explore the subject of what happened with your daughter and her health condition, and then she's passed away, and I'm not trying to bring up previous things, but like how this is the real world. I went from ultra marathons to I can hardly walk in 11 months, 12 months, right? You've been dealing with someone with it was cerebral palsy, wasn't it? Like,
so she had something
you
that
told me this, right?
It mimicked. So she had 1p36 deletion syndrome. So it basically mirrored cerebral palsy. But when she was born perfectly healthy, and she had something called neck, which it basically is gangrene of the gut. So I don't know if you've seen, like, sometimes people get they have gangrene in their leg just from poor blood flow. So when she was born, her body prioritized blood to the lungs, and her heart and her brain. So it basically left her gut and it exposed it. She perforated and things went on with her gut, and that we thought was we thought it was it. We didn't know. Like, we went to the hospital. Um, she was born normally. 2 days later, she's being rushed off to the major hospital here in Brisbane, which was the Mater at the time, the Mater Mothers. And they just said, look, we're going to take her into surgery, but it was a very slim chance she was coming out of it. And like in her true fashion and style, she came out of it, and it was a long battle. Like, she had brain bleeds from the septicemia, because when you perforate, toxins and things are released into your bloodstream, and she got really sick again, and that we had to wait for the swelling to subside, and again they were just like, it's touch and go. She was little, she was swollen, like I've never seen anything like it, and she was yellow because she was so sick. Man. Anyway, fast forwarding, she rolled into she went from the NICU, which is like your intensive care unit for babies. She went over to the special care, and she kind of developed, and she started developing a personality, and when she got to about 3 months, because she was dependent on something called TPN, which is intravenous feeding. So she couldn't take anything orally because of her gut, and things like that. And look, we saw all sorts of things happening in those hospitals, and in that time, like where we were situated, we were kind of in a back corner because we were long-termers, and that back corner was adjacent to where, well, I'll be frank, it was like the crack babies. And we saw like these babies that were perfectly healthy otherwise, and the only thing that was wrong with them is they were addicted to whatever the mum was addicted to. And it was really, really sad, and kind of brought up like, why are we here when they're perfectly healthy and all they had to do was stay off the gear?
And, it's crazy.
I don't know. We got past that. Anyway, we went from special care and we went over to the children's ward, because she started smiling and things like that. So she wasn't a baby anymore. So they put us over in the children's, and from the minute we got to the children's, it was kind of like things just started happening, because we weren't used to them, they weren't used to us, and she got sick. So she got influenza A almost straight away. They took us for a chest X-ray. They noticed her heart was enlarged, and cardiologist got brought into it. She had a hole in her heart. She had ASD open and PDA open, which are like all the tubes that run around your heart. So shit was going wrong with her heart. So we're like, oh my god.
So like problem after problem after problem.
The list goes on. It got to the point where like she was 6.5 months, or 6 months I should say,
in hospital.
And we just look, it was my wife. Like, my wife was like, we can do what we're doing here at home, let us go. And she was 100% right. Like, she's an amazing person, and she knew what was best for her. So she came home, and we just started our 15-year journey with her. So it's been like, there's lots of crazy stuff happened, like stuff that people won't believe, like things that don't make sense. And we almost lost her again a couple of times, but she kept fighting through. And the thing that got her in the end was the one thing we thought we didn't have to worry about, which was her heart. So crazy how things happen.
So she, I mean, I don't want to like, again, I'm not trying to bring up stuff that just to bring up pain or stuff like that, but I think there are more people who have these struggles, the health issues and things like that in the family than, and I saw this response, and it was amazing, and I love this. So your daughter passed away a couple of months ago, really, not that long ago, really. Hey,
3 months,
3 months ago, and she died in the house with you, right? Like, it was completely unexpected.
No, we were in hospital.
You were in hospital.
She went in to get checked out. Yeah, so she was in hospital.
Okay, she was in hospital. Okay, but You were not expecting it in the sense of like, it wasn't a long build up to this, was it? It just happened.
No, not at all.
And
No, we
so,
went in on the on the way in. We were eating nuggets and chips and having a joke in the car, and even in
wow,
emergency, it was we were having a laugh in emergency. And I've got videos which are really hard to watch, but
of course.
less than 24 hours, and yeah, everything changed.
Then what happened was Ben put up a post on LMCA a few days later saying,
Yeah,
what had happened. And one of the coolest things that I think has ever happened on the page happened. I made a little fundraiser. None of the
yeah,
success of the fundraiser has anything to do with me, right? Like, and a lot of people are like, oh, good job for making the fundraiser. Nothing, because I donated. I don't even remember how much I donated, but then everybody else got involved, and I
yeah,
think I set my target as 2,000, and it's like a couple of hours later, we've cracked the target. Wow, this is amazing. Next day, we double it. Next day, it's huge. It was like $13,000 in the end. And
yeah, yeah,
funerals are expensive, and what you told me was that the community paid for the funeral and gave you a proper send
yeah,
off for your daughter. Hey,
yeah,
that is nuts.
yeah,
That is like, and what I love about that is you're supposed to be a competitor to some of these people. But you're not, because it's like, this is the real world. This is life. This happens. And I love that we talk about the mulching, the catching debates, and is this mower too expensive and all that sort of stuff. And when the rubber hit the road, somebody who had given so much for the community, everybody came back and they were like, here's some money, relax.
it was huge. Like the difference it made, I can never express. I can never express our thanks as a family. Like I was able to, like we still had to run the business, but I didn't have to work in the business. It just
Yeah.
took the pressure off, and just the things that we were able to do for her that we just wouldn't have been able to do. And it gave us the freedom to send her off the way that we knew that she should be sent off.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just made an amazing difference.
And I'm that's the stuff that I love about business. It's the same thing you're talking about with your Scag family. It's the same thing that you're talking about with your relationship with Ben and how far that goes back. It's like, business is not about
Yeah,
money. Money is great. Numbers are great. You got to know your numbers. You got to, to be successful and to last. But there's something about the freedom of being able to do that and help people out, and people who chip in. And I know there was guys who are messaging Ben saying like, I'm in the area. Does BJ need help with any work getting completed?
yeah,
I'll do it for free. There's just so much love and support. And that, I mean, that from competitors, technically speaking, not from
yeah,
people you pay or subcontractors or people, and I know Scag was great. But man, like that was an amazing
yeah.
thing. You know,
Look, Scag really did play a huge role in keeping me sane. Massive shout out to Rob Shearer, Duncan, and Al Russell. Like those guys really made sure that we were okay in every which way. They organised counselling for us, like the whole family. And look, anything, and I knew, because that's the kind of company they are. Like anything I needed, they were there for us. And like nothing I say can express how thankful I am to have a group of people like that around me. And the same with LMCA. Like it, it's more than just a group to me now. Like the way that they've helped my family, like I'd like to think that no, it wasn't just for me. Like it would be for anyone in the same situation, because it's just something that it's horrible. Like it's been a horrible time, and we've sort of it's finding the new normal is probably the hardest thing.
yeah.
And working through, every day someone will still message me and be like, hey man, how you doing? And look, I don't know how I would have been without those things, because I didn't have to go through it without the support. But I definitely appreciate all the messages, all the kindness that like our whole family has received from the industry. It's amazing. It truly is amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, the fundraiser, there wasn't a single person that you could point the fundraiser at and be like, that's who was responsible for that. Because if I didn't make it, someone else would have made it. It's got nothing to do with me. And it wasn't like $13,000 was donated by one person. There were hundreds of people who chipped in and just did what they can. That's so cool. I love that. And I mean, that's the best part of the internet, isn't it? And, you know, you would have found people, I didn't read through the names or anything like that. You know, like it's just, yeah, but everyone, I don't know if there was, I haven't got anyone in mind when I'm saying this is what I'm trying to get at, but you would have found that there would be people who probably have said things to you about Scag or this or that, whatever. Like maybe you both really disagreed with each other, but when the rubber hit the road, they're putting money in. And it's like, that's what I love about this. And anyways, that's just
look,
special.
I at the time, I couldn't really go through the messages. Like everything was so fresh.
Yeah, of course.
It's so unreal. Like trying to maneuver through that sort of situation. And I know, like I'm not the only one in that boat. Like it happens all over the world all the time.
Yeah.
But when it happens to you, it's like it's something else. Like you don't know, like you're properly broken. So that's how I have to explain it to people. It's like you're properly broken. So
yeah.
And it'll take a long time for it to heal. So you know, just having the support, like my wife, you know, we're very close, and my kids are like, my daughter's open with us, and yeah, look, my mother and father-in-law, my mum, my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law's been amazing. She came and stayed with us for the first week, and it was beneficial. Like she was like a distraction, and she helped with Archie, and everyone around us was just fantastic. So can't be more thankful. Yeah, it's a real bastard of a situation though. Like you just have to work through it. Like you can't, especially when you've got kids and a business. Like I've got a couple other families I'm feeding too. Like you can't just, as much as you want to, just fall down and just not do anything for weeks on end. Like life is not.
Yeah. And it's the tenacity, and you can't do it on your own, but you have to make a move at some stage. You know, you have to take responsibility for I'm in this situation. I'm going to do the best I can now to get up and get out of it. I've never lost anybody like that, like you have. I'm just talking about the challenges that I had and things like that. And yeah, but like I said, that's the real world. This is, you know, I think it's a good time to finish the podcast. We're at 2 hours, but you don't get more real than starting off talking about drinking stories and ending up talking about real life crisis. You know, and that's what we get with you. That's what we get with you, BJ. And I really appreciate you. And I'll say one more thing. I told you this on the phone, the first phone call we had, maybe a month after everything had, things had quieted down a little bit. And you said to me something. You said to me something along the lines of, I don't deserve this. And I said, no, man, like you definitely deserve it. And the reason is that you've been giving people free advice, free help online for years and years and years. And what people are saying is the least I can do is throw $50 at you. The least I can do. And we don't realize this is why, like, the podcast and stuff, we have to have some money coming in to make it financially viable, because I'm taking time out of gardening to do this, right? Like there's just numbers involved. Yeah. But you are the same, I'm the same, is that the podcast is there to bless people and have a good time. And I would prefer, and I know you're the same person like this, you prefer your legacy to be at the end of your life to have helped people and to have blessed people and being you and being the honest, real you whilst you were doing it. And that's where the real life is. That's where the real fun is. You get to do that when you take on risks in business and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's why everyone came back, because they saw the real BJ with all his opinion on how orange your gear needs to be for him to love you and all that sort of stuff. It's like, behind that, all that bravado and the funny stories and the tattoos on your bum that we haven't talked about yet, and just things like that. It's like people are like, we're coming in. So look, that's the real man. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your time, man. I'm sure we'll get you on some other stage. We'll, in the 20 years these podcasts are going to run, or however long it's going to be, we'll be back and forth on each other's stuff. So,
all good, man. I'm making moves. Some things are happening for us, so hopefully, when they're all set in stone, I can jump back on and sort of let you know how it all happened.
Yeah, right. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much. This is a good 2 hour long podcast, but I think the best is at the end. So, people, tell your friends about it, get on it, and we'll see you next time, BJ.
Peace.
All right. Ending the recording, but we can still
Ew.
talk.